This podcast is sponsored by www.gambleriskfree.com, teaching you how to make guaranteed profit from bookies. Any free bet you get teaches you how to turn it into real withdrawable cash. They also find free bets for you so you don't have to do any work. Take a look at their website and enter the promo code Gooner Ramble when joining. GambleRiskFree.com.
Hello, welcome and good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Gooner Ramble. My name's Callum and I'm host today, and I'm joined by ever-present Was.
Hello mate, how you doing? You alright?
Very well, thank you. And
Good
how are
man.
you?
Yeah, good.
Good man. And Clive as well.
Clive, am I an ever-present?
You are an ever-present. I believe so at this point. You guys are the stalwarts of the team, our Alexis and our Urzel, I think. You can decide between you who's who, but...
I'm Mezza, I want to be Mezza.
Okay.
Well,
I'll be the black bloke then.
But anyway, so thanks for joining us, guys. We're recording today, the day after the Middlesbrough game, which of course we drew 0-0. Kind of took the wind out of ourselves a little bit, I guess, after a pretty great few weeks. But speaking of you guys being ever presents, and maybe we don't rotate as much on the podcast, some people might say. Some people have been throwing that accusation at Arsenal as well. We looked pretty today, boys, didn't we? And before we get into more depth about the game, do you think we'll go straight into the questions and think? Do you think that the issue we had yesterday was the fact that we just looked too tired? Clive, do you agree with that?
Yeah, we looked tired. We weren't the only ones, right? It's quite interesting. The top teams, Liverpool and Chelsea won, right? And they're the only ones. And guess what? They weren't playing in Europe. And so everyone else had a bit of a struggle, right? So, Spurs ran into Bournemouth, who run as much as they do, and they couldn't quite find the answer. And we struggled a little bit as well. And it's just the nature of the season. I think just seeing the game develop, I thought we started off okay, and we got some sort of half chances, but I think sometimes that leads us into a bit of a false sense of security, and we think it's going to be easy. And as soon as Middlesbrough had their first chance, we realised we were in the game. I thought that affected us psychologically, and they had a few more chances, and I was actually quite pleased to be 0-0 at half time. And yeah, we looked a little bit flat. We just looked a little bit okay. I didn't sense an attitude problem. I just sensed that extra bit of 3% sharpness and dynamism wasn't quite there. So we were looking for somebody to break it open, right? And that player, normally I call him the first goal killer, is Alexis. He just didn't quite get the first goal that we normally get from him. And if we'd have had it, I think we'd have won the game comfortably, but we didn't. And it's quite interesting. I actually went to the game this week, so I had a different view. And I did feel that a lot of people were quite okay with it. They weren't like hanging themselves from the nearest bridge. They were thinking, you know what, that happened. I think that's testament to the fact that the team has actually got some goodwill due to recent performances and how they've approached games since Liverpool. So that's how I saw it, really. I think we just looked a little bit flat, and I don't see anything more in that. And the fact that we weren't the only ones that were flat makes me feel much better about it.
What do you think was about that? We've had a question out actually as well that asked about this from TT at Haas AFC, and he just asked, is rotation an issue? Or the lack of rotation, perhaps? Or do you think what Clive said with regards to this being one of those days, Middlesbrough defended really well? Yeah. And what do you put it down to?
They did defend very well, but I was alarmed at the start of the game with a line-up, and at the end of the day, it weren't a nice way for our winning run to come to an end against the promoted side at home, but no games are given in the Premier League, and I just think looking at that game, it was very, very much like a carbon copy of a lot of games we saw last season at the Emirates, where we struggled to break sides down, we lacked creativity, we lacked that, like Clive said, that extra 3%. We were a bit predictable in the ways we were playing, and we were always susceptible to the counter. And when you look back on reflection, we probably were lucky to get a point in the end. But luckily for us, other teams have failed to capitalise, and I'm sure we'll talk more about the game and the team selection as we go along. But maybe we were a bit tired and we were lacking just a bit in that final third. But I just sense a bit too much of an over-reliance on Theo and Alexis to really be the spark. And without that, I think we struggled, and that turned true. And the longer the game developed, like Clive said at half-time, I was very happy to go in level pegging. I thought, right, we got away with a couple of here, 3 or 4 nearly, and we just didn't get that goal, and we kept the clean sheet somehow. I mean, some miraculous defending and got great saves, and we could have got goals as well, but it's just one of them games that I just hope it don't come back to hurt us at the end of the season.
But, as you both of you have said, this isn't this happens to every team. City, who looked unbeatable for a few games, I think not won in 3 or 4. They've drawn their last 2 games with, Southampton, Everton, 2 home games as well. I mean, Middlesbrough, obviously a newly promoted side, so that's always a bit of a frustration, but it seems to be a common thing. Tottenham have drawn the last 2 games. It's I think over the course of a 38-game season, it's going to happen. But let's talk about the beginning. I mean, Clive, you mentioned it briefly, but when I put the game on and was watching the first 10 minutes, I don't know how both of you guys felt at the game, but in those first 10 minutes, we're knocking the ball around really well. We were really lively. And whilst we didn't create anything clear cut, it did look like a matter of time. And to be honest, even the commentators on my stream were saying, Middlesbrough have to come out because it's only a matter of time before Arsenal score. And given our recent form, I kind of assumed that was probably going to be true, even though it always makes me uncomfortable when I hear commentators, talk about it as if the result was a given, which obviously it wasn't. But then this hasn't been a one-off thing where we kind of knock the ball about really well for the first 10 minutes and then it kind of all just fizzles out slightly. Why do you think that is? I mean, is it just like we come out, we're excited, the crowd's up, and then settles down?
I thought we was okay at the start. And funny enough, there was some good play. I thought Iwobi had a really good sort of first 5 minutes, and I'm thinking, okay, he's obviously responded to Oxlade-Chamberlain's good show in the week. That's what you want, 2 players firing it out. I think it was debatable if he should have started, in my opinion. I just noticed recently, I think he's not been lasting games as much. And I think we need to manage him quite carefully. He's still very, very young. He might look, physically, quite mature, but he's still a young boy, right? So, we got to look after him. But I thought he started very, very brightly. And there was one bit, well, I don't know if you remember it was, but there's a chip ball over the top and Ozil sort of trapped it similar to what he did again through the Goretz. And he sort of, rather than go through and shoot, he sort of tried to lay in, I think it was Sanchez, right? And it was one of those sort of things that you do when you're like normally 2-0 up, you just try a blind pass. And I was just sitting there smiling, thinking, here we go, we're going to start now. And then Middlesbrough just got a chance. I can't quite remember what it was now. They got their first chance. I think it damaged us a little bit. I just think it damaged us, and we became more vulnerable. And they grew into the game, and they had 2 or 3 excellent players playing well in Traore and Mareires particularly, and they had the ability to get up the pitch, and they were well set up. Funny enough, their away record is actually quite good. It's a home record that's letting them down. And maybe if we'd have looked into it a little bit more, we may have seen this coming, right? So, yeah, I don't see anything terminal. I didn't see, there's been times, this last year when I sensed a bad attitude on the pitch. I didn't see a togetherness. I didn't see a focus. But I did see a focus. I did see a togetherness. I just didn't see a freshness. And in the week, in Champions League, we saw our front sort of 4 or 5 really doing the business and our defenders watching the show like we were. But yesterday, I thought, our back line and our centre halves and our goalkeepers and our fullbacks had to really work. They weren't mistake free, but they did their bit to make sure we didn't lose the game. And if you're looking for positives, you've got to say to yourself, okay, Alexis, Walcott and Ozil and Oxlade-Chamberlain, killed the game on Wednesday. But actually, Koscielny, Mustafi, Cech, Bellerin, Monreal to a point, they got us that game. You got to say to yourself, well, actually, if you're the manager of the team, I've got something good going on here. I've got, when someone goes cold, the rest of the boys step in and help sort things out. So I have to say, if you're looking for something dramatic from me to say this is the reason, I've got my own thoughts, but I am not worried about what I saw yesterday. And all they need is a Radox bath and watching these tenders for a couple of days, and we'll all be good.
You'll be as right as rain.
Exactly.
Just to play devil's advocate, Clive, before we go to you, I mean, you praised the defence there, which I can understand why. I think in the second half in particular, that both Koscielny and Mustafi look pretty good. But could you not make the point that really in that first half, for us to be at home to Middlesbrough, who deserve respect immensely, but their attacking players shouldn't be giving us as much trouble as they did. And whilst we did dig out a draw, I think any Arsenal fan watching that game knew that we were lucky to go in at half time a goal, on level pegging, because Czech had to make a few too many saves, and there's that one huge chance at the end that I forget who it was at the back post headed it, and it was Ramirez, I think, and it was at point blank range, and Czech kind of pulled out, made himself big. But I understand completely where you're coming from, but
yeah, I'm just saying that they had to bail us out, and there are reasons for that, right? So, and a lot of people have been talking about our centre midfield and the fact that we had Coquelin and El Neni there. Well, he actually, he didn't really protect us from the break that much. And my issue was they were breaking from wide areas, right? And if I'm looking at the game, and I'm not sure on this, I'm going to run this by you and see what you think. But I was really disappointed in our wide players. I thought they were off today. They've been great all season, so I'm not going to say they need to be sold. But I just thought Iwobi was really off the pace. And Theo was just a little bit less proactive than he has been, although he did raise himself towards the end of the game. And I think their influence helps pin back the opposition's wide people. And they weren't really coming down our middle. They were coming down our wide areas. And that was a challenge for us because we like to push from wide. And I just felt we didn't connect out wide. And we couldn't be found so easily. So we ended up in situations where our two centre mids were passing to each other. And that's what we don't want to see. And everyone's saying, well, we needed Santi. Well, actually, could you imagine Santi trying to run with these breakaway players? It could have been worse. Do you know what I mean? And so it's all hypothetical. And every game's different, and I do think Santi should have been rested against Ludogorets. I don't see any reason why he needed to play. Xhaka should have played, in my opinion, and he would have been fresh, and maybe it might have been a different result, but maybe it might have been the same or worse. We don't know. But I felt we have four creative players at the top end of our pitch, right? And we have Ozil, we have Iwobi, we have Sanchez, and we have Theo, and there are creators. And if you look at it, I mean, if you want to add Santi there as well, say five. So if you look at it now, and if Santi's not there, we've got Xhaka. And these are creative players. So you take Xhaka out, you take Santi out. Wobi's below par. Theo's a little bit less proactive than he normally has been. And we were very reliant on Ozil and Sanchez who didn't quite execute, didn't quite have the high-level game that they had on Wednesday. And that's all that happened, really. We were a little bit down on the creativity, a little bit down on the spark. And I think that led to us turning over the ball in areas we don't normally turn the ball over in. That led to breakaways, and that's how I saw it.
No, I can think you made some very good points there, and actually you bringing up Santi is something that leads us into a question we got from Michael at Michael Elot, who asked, "Did the performance highlight just how important Santi Did the performance highlight just how important Santi is to us?" And I'll throw that to you, and of course, I think there's a caveat with that question as well, is that, what did you make of El Neni's performance? And I know that you're not the biggest fan, but how much of what happened yesterday do you think was down to El Neni being in there ahead of Cazorla, or just Cazorla not being there, full stop?
I think with Santi, I'm not sure that. Obviously, he's a far more progressive passer. He sees things quicker. He moves the ball through the lines quicker. He's very, very front-footed with regards to his passing style. And El Nene maybe lacks in that department. He keeps the ball very well. He keeps it ticking over, but he hasn't really got the X factor. And I'm not sure Santi would have made that much of a difference yesterday. And I look at these games against teams at home, and they sit back and sit deep and expose us on the break. And Clive brought up some great points, like what he said about Iwobi and Walcott lacking, especially on that left-hand side. without the retention of whip from Iwobi, and with the two deep lying central midfielders, it was very, very much like watching Arteta and Flamini play side by side. It actually felt like watching Arteta, obviously a slightly upgraded version of Arteta and Flamini. Sort of El Nene was doing the Arteta job, passing the ball about, and Coquelin was running about like Flamini, and we didn't really have any protection, but we also didn't have anything going forward. Now, with Santi sitting in deeper, I think it helps Coquelin because he can trust him a lot more on the ball, and he doesn't have to do as much on the ball, which gives him the freedom to run about. But in a game like yesterday, like Clive said, with the way they were breaking, I think it's another game that would have just passed Santi by. Because every time we play a team that are physical, as in they're athletic and they can move from box to box quick, Santi will struggle and the game will bypass him. There's no doubt that he's brilliant on the ball, but you look at his physical side of the game, and they're the kind of games that he almost gets lost in. And with regards to getting a goal, I think yes, what we really, really, really missed yesterday, and I talk about it a lot, is that third man run from midfield. Someone who's gonna burst into the box unexpected, arrive and sort of without the defence set for them, because it's very easy to defend against sort of when you just got Alexis and Walcott and Iwobi's trying to do his thing and get on the ball, and Ozil's having to pull out wide left. But that's why I was frustrated. It was all in front of them, and there's no one breaking the lines, and there's no retention of width, and it was literally like watching. This is why I was frustrated about it, because you go into a game at home with two deep lying midfielders, which I never understand anyway at home, against a newly promoted side. Goals, you look through the team, Coquelin's never scored a goal for Arsenal. El Nene's got one goal. Alex Iwobi's only scored 2 goals for Arsenal. There weren't goals in that side, and I was really, really worried at the start of the game going into it that if we didn't get an early goal and Alexis and Walcott weren't on it, then we would struggle to break them down. And we talk about missing Santi. I do think we did in a way, but I don't think that was a game that really I could have looked at and said, do you know what, we would have won that game if Santi had played. Yeah. I personally would have, Clive, you said about the Ox. I personally would have given him an opportunity in the middle of the park in a game like that. And whether we can trust him or not, if you say, I would have personally said to Coquelin, look, do what you do best, marshal in front of the back four, you break up play, and just let Ox go. And let him run that box to box. Give him an opportunity there, because maybe in a game away from home, I might have said, yeah, okay, set El Nene in there, and we'll try and get something. But it just didn't happen. There was a big reliance, and we was getting caught time and time again. You talked about that header earlier, Cal, at the far post. I mean, Iwobi's just ball watching, Monreal's tucked in, and we were just all over the shop defensively, and they created quite a few chances, and it was the same thing. We were playing in front of them. They were happy to let us, bang, Traore's gone. They're going up the pitch very quick. Like Clive said earlier, Gaston Ramirez had a very good game, and they were playing off their pivot of the target man up front, and they looked quite dangerous. They really did look dangerous, and I think it was all our own doing. But with regards to Santi, yes, we did miss him, but I personally don't think that was the reason behind us not winning the game.
I think I agree with almost all of that, right? And I think when you walk out of the ground, you sort of have a picture of the last sort of half an hour in your head. And that's when we had pushed them back. They were pushed back then. They weren't breaking so much then. They'd settled for their point, and they were in, especially last 25. We made a few substitutions, took the man out of centre midfield. And at that point, you're thinking, I want to win this. If we had Santi there, maybe there could be an inventive pass. There could be a little trick around the corner, and those will get livened up. And you're fond of the players that are not on the pitch. But if you look at the game as a whole, you're absolutely right. They were very athletic on the break, and I think it could have been worse. It actually could have been worse, because at least we could actually get people back. So people have got this fondness for players who are not there and their ultimate skill, when actually, it's all about the connections and the triangles and the combinations and being available to be found. And I thought Iwobi was not so available to be found after the first 10 minutes. And Theo was just a little bit calmer, just a little bit more passive. I did actually rate his performance. Actually, I thought he sort of addressed that in the second half. But when we had them early on, I felt it was a little bit passive and a bit more aggressive. And I actually think the first 10 minutes was the time for us to score, and we missed that chance. We thought it was going to be easier, and they surprised us. So I'm glad that you thought that one. I think the same as me was. I think it could have been worse if we had that play. But for the last 25 minutes, it would be great to bring him on to sort of pick them apart. Would have been perfect.
So let's look forward a little bit now, because I found that the game it was very similar to how the Burnley game went. Aside from the fact that Middlesbrough offered, of course, a far much more an attack. But looking at the shape of our midfield, we've gone with the kind of same 5 players for weeks now, and of course, Elneny came in just because. Actually, there's been a slight lie. There's been a bit of change in the middle with Xhaka coming in and out, getting sent off, Cazorla being in and out with injury and stuff. But there's my main question, I guess, is that Aaron Ramsey's hopefully going to be back pretty soon, and for a while it looked like before this game you'd look at the team and think, how is he going to get back in? And in many ways you might still think that, but let's say Cazorla's fit, Xhaka comes back, Ramsey's back to fitness. Clive, I mean, what are you thinking? Do you think we should mix things up a little bit, or stick with what's been working the last few weeks, or would you try and get him into the team? Like what was said with regards to a runner through the midfield, that definitely felt like we were lacking something. Because there seemed to be this disconnect between the 2 midfielders who are deeper lying, and then the front 4 for large parts of the first half didn't seem to be involved at all, really. They looked like strangers.
I just think we didn't connect as units, and I'm actually not sure whose fault that is. Let's give some credit to the opposition. They blocked off the passing lines. They did pretty well. Burnley did pretty well against us as well. What you're finding in the Premiership is teams are well coached. They're following the Jose Mourinho blueprint of having wide midfielders that are acting as auxiliary fullbacks, barricading the box and springing from a solid base. And Middlesbrough found got the fastest player in the world on the right hand side. So
Monreal found out.
I feel sorry for him, right? He's met a few lately, isn't he? And it sort of worked. But I don't think we've got options in centre mid, but I haven't seen that pairing that says to me, that's it. I haven't seen it yet. I don't think we've fixed it. I'm not stressed about it because we've got every single midfielder type there possibly is. But I'm not stressed about it. And I do want to see Ramsey play in this team because he deserves the chance to play. Now, what I don't, but I want him to, when he gets in, earn that spot like everybody else has, So, but I think it could be an opportunity for him, and there'll be opportunity for people like Giroud as well, And if I come away with a lasting memory from yesterday, actually, it was a performance of Lucas Perez. I haven't seen him live before, and he's really come to play for Arsenal. He's not messing about. He wants a shirt, and he's really pushing hard, right? So, centre mid. I haven't seen that balance. I haven't seen it yet. And I'm not sure what it is, but I think the cream's going to rise to the top. We're going to see that develop over time, and it's going to be interesting to see who wins the battle in the crucial months after Christmas, when 3 points mean more than 3 points, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I like the analogy, the cream rises to the top. What do you make of that? Do you think, and with a specific kind of look at where Aaron Ramsey fits in, because he's a player that, you have to remind yourself we have actually over the last few weeks, because things have been going so well, you don't think of the players you don't have, you think of the guys that are performing. Of course, been a big player for us for years. And so with regards to him specifically, and also you as kind of with the way Clive looks at it with regards to having all these options, fantastic, we can mix and match, or would you rather see a more consistent pairing in that middle or in the midfield in general? Because over the last few weeks, playing the same team pretty much every game, allowing them to get used to playing with each other, has been a big reason as to why we've done well.
Yeah, with that midfield pairing, I'll jump on Ramsey in a minute, but I think it's, like Clive said, I don't think we've seen our best 2 yet. And I think with the Coquelin Cazorla, I just think it's a little bit backwards, really, because Coquelin is doing the high press and he's done brilliant, but he's not really the kind of guy that's going to get in the final third and be a box-to-box man. And Santi is sitting deep, and the geezer can't really defend for Toffee. He's just there to play the ball. Now, it seems to me like the way he's utilising the two is very strange. It has worked, but also in games, Southampton we struggled, Burnley we struggled, Swansea we found it difficult when they started getting mobile, and that too. He's got it's more the way they play together than is what I'm interested in. And I like, do you know, I think Granit Xhaka reminds me of a lot is someone like Emmanuel Petit. And I think that he can play in the middle of that park and get the ball and move the ball well and play the ball through the lines. And just, I think I'd give the freedom and the ability to high press to someone with a bit more in the attacking third. Someone like Aaron Ramsey or Jack Wilshere, who ain't even at the club, who's getting minutes, good on him. But again, he's another player I would have started yesterday, and if he was there. But Ox is another option. I just think it's the balance of the two rather than the actual individual. And with regards to Ramsey specifically, I think he's made for that role alongside someone like Xhaka, who's not the most mobile player in the world, but he's happy to just sit and marshal. And his ability to play through the lines and find Mesut Ozil, who's finding them pockets of space, gives Ramsey the freedom to be the man. And I've seen it a lot of times with Ramsey, and he often doesn't get credit for it. When teams break, he's the first one back. He is running down that man, and he wins a hell of a lot of tackles and gets a lot of ball recoveries. And I think last season we all forgot what he's like as a player when we saw him alongside Flamini. Then we saw El Nene come in, and we all thought, bloody hell, brilliant, no more Flamini, this El Nene's a player. Then you watch Cazorla in there, and you think, well, actually, El Nene's fairly simplistic in what he does. He's very good at what he does, but he hasn't really got the next level, and he's a good squad player. So it's just an evolution of a player, and I do think that we're all judging an Aaron Ramsey in an unbalanced side and with no width and a poor central midfield alongside him, and when we struggled for a long spells last season. But let's give him a chance, and yes, he's got to earn his chance. 100%. Once he's in the team, he's got to do something, and he's got to hold down his place. But there's certainly opportunities for him, and I love the way he plays. And like I say, he gets goals as well, and that's another thing that we really do need at times is them goals from midfield. And I'd like to see the pairing of Xhaka Ramsey come to light and let Xhaka sit and let Ramsey press and do everything that Coquelin's doing, but he'll also give you a bit more in the final third. But we shouldn't get too hung up on individuals. I'm more worried about how he uses the pair as a two, because I think Xhaka Cazorla is far too immobile in the middle of the park, and I just think it's more about the attributes of the players and how they perform together rather than the individual. But yeah, I definitely think there's a space for Aaron Ramsey there, 100%, and it's going to be exciting to see him back fresh, and it's another option.
I'll just come in there, right? Actually,
yeah.
You know, so my Tim, I don't know if you saw the article that Tim Stillman done on the centre midfield last week, and it was really good. And he sort of tried to do strengths and weaknesses of the midfielders, right? And the way he categorised El Nene, which I agree with, is that he does everyone's job. So he can be a front foot player or he can be a back foot player. He doesn't find it easy, but he's sort of a jack of all trades. And I agree with that. And I thought about it a little bit further, and I thought, actually, in centre mid we have, with Ramsey and Coquelin, they're both what I call front foot players. They prefer to be pushing forward. They prefer to go and intercept and drive. And I think Santi and Xhaka are what I call back foot players. They're controllers, like to see the game in front of them. They have a range of pass. And that's how I see the four. And I just think you can't have two front foots, you can't have two back foots, if you see what I mean, because we become too immobile and we don't engage the game enough. We don't cause enough trauma. I think if we cause trauma and stress with other teams, that's when Theo switches on. That's when Alexis switches on. He needs the trauma. He needs the damage that Coquelin has so far created. And off that damage, we're in. And Ozil, he's quick. We react so quickly in transition. From as soon as we get the ball, everyone's on. And I think it's our major strength. And Coquelin, that's why I think Coquelin has been probably the best of all so far. Now, who's his particular partner? I think he's one of the back foot players. Now, Santi's done it for a while, but you know, Santi's getting older. So he's one of the front foots, he's one of the back foots. And I think, you know, Xhaka should be our back foot future, right? He is our controller at the base of our team. And then it becomes, who is our best player to play with him, in my opinion? He's one of the front foot players. And it's going to be Ramsey, it's going to be Coquelin. But it's not just a balance of the two. It's also to balance that left-hand player. Because we use that player as an auxiliary playmaker. And that player's got to be on. Because if he's not on, we look at the middle two and we question the balance there. And I felt that was the issue yesterday. So it is not just about the two individuals. I think it's about their attributes, their profile. And in my opinion, we've got two front foots, we've got two back foot players, and we've got a jack of all trades in El Nini. And it's just a matter of mixing that up. And this is why I want to see Ramsey, because I want to see him with this group of players, not with Flamini. I want to see 2016 Ramsey. I don't want to kill him. I haven't always been a fan. But let's see what he does in this team, in this structure, with this chemistry, with this new Arsenal we're seeing right now with Alexis as centre forward. I want to see what he does with that. He deserves a chance, and his time will come.
And it's interesting because, you look at Walcott, who's had a great season and, I know you've always backed him for a long time, but, I was looking at, it was funny, I was looking at his season history and the amount of goals he scored. I think he's got 8 already this season. And I think if he scores a couple more, it'll already be his third or I think best scoring season ever. And then if he scores a few more than that, maybe not that high, but, he's already overperforming. He's performing at a level this year that we've not really seen, I don't think, since he got his injury in the 2012-13 season, 13-14 season. Sorry, or was it it was the 2012-13? I can't remember. Anyway, irrelevant. But you look at Walcott and he's really turned it up this season, and he's playing at a level which is kind of close to as good as he's ever been for us. And you think at Ramsey, and you think back to that 2014 season where he was just incredible. And if you add him into this team when you've got Walcott playing well, Alexis, Özil, suddenly we've got the best attack in the league. And it's he's had a mix. I guess he's had a mixed time, hasn't he, the last couple of years? And as you say, Clive, we've got a superb kind of variety of options. And I like the analogy with the back foot players with Elneny is kind of the jack of all trades. And I guess it's all. It's an exciting thing to think about, I guess. And whenever we moan about Wenger not picking the right team or not getting the combination just right, you just have to think back to pretty recent times when, Arteta and Flamini were getting regular game time through injuries and stuff. So, speaking about, sorry, did you want us to come in?
No, we've moved on since those days. We're a different team.
We are a different team. Speaking of players who've been missing, we've got another question coming in from Limaro Fipama on Twitter, who says, how quickly do we need Giroud back so we can have a plan B up front? And before I ask you guys about this, I'll preface this by saying that was my main takeaway from the game yesterday, was that just like Burnley, not having that plan B was detrimental to us because, I think in football the worst thing you can be is predictable. And, if you're predictable, it doesn't matter if you're, like we're playing at the top of our game and we're destroying teams, beating Chelsea 3-0, knocking 6 past Ludogorets, that's all great. But when things don't go well and you can only play one way, that's when things get difficult. And when you've got Alexis up front, and it's great when he's on form and he's finding space, but when he's not and he's dropping deep, vacating the box, there's no one up there, there's no focal point to the attack. We still hit crosses in every game, irrespective of whether Giroud's starting or not. So, and I've heard some people say that, with the recent form and then Alexis is a striker, this is basically the end of Giroud. I've heard this is, good, we can finally get rid of him. And I've always thought that when he comes back, which could be this week against Reading, we'll finally see him as what he always should have been, which is the backup. I've always thought that he is a really effective player, but isn't the player that should be playing for us week in, week out, because he is limited. But I'm going to say that, I really think that Giroud could have helped us both in this game and the Burnley game, and that we're going to have a number of matches this season where having a focal point, a target man, someone who can win headers, get knockdowns in the box is vital. And I guess you guys, do you kind of attach a similar sort of importance to Giroud, or do you still think that he should be on the peripheries when he comes back? What do you think?
I think Olivier Giroud's massive for Arsenal Football Club. I really do. I still think he is. I think I don't understand why people are talking about him like he's some sort of second-rate striker. He's at what he does. He's one of the best in the world at what he does. Simple as that. And in the Southampton game, he doesn't get enough credit, Olivier Giroud. His movement is very clever for his size. I think his link-up play is absolutely fantastic, and definitely, like you said, Cal, with regards to the Plan B situation, we do need something different. But I'm also worried about when we've signed Lucas Perez, and we brought him on the wing and kept Alexis up front, which I was very surprised about. I'd have maybe switched it up, put Alexis out to the left and Lucas centre forward, even though it weren't really a change in style. It's it's a different centre forward for the centre backs to deal with, and a different winger, and also I worry about is we've allowed Joel Campbell to go out on loan and Serge Gnabry to leave the club, but Alex Iwobi ain't completed more than 74 minutes in the Premier League this season, and he looks tired already, and he's a young lad, and like Clive said earlier, we need to look after him. So we're going to need someone back out on that left wing soon, and I know Danny Welbeck's back in the new year, but I don't think you can expect much from him until March. So Olivier Giroud could, I'm not writing him off having a long spell in this team again, and Alexis back out on the left, because just it will change the way we play, obviously with regards to the pressing, and it's a different type of centre forward, but he can equally bring Alexis and Walcott into the game as much as anyone else, and he gets goals. He really does get goals, and Olivier Giroud could easily get 30 goals if we play to his strengths. I genuinely believe that. And last season it was just so frustrating. We saw Walcott on the left wing, and Mesut Ozil made the most crosses out of our whole team in the Premier League, and Olivier Giroud, he's just get the ball wide, get the ball in the box, and he'll get you a goal. He'll cause you some chaos, and he can also play well with his back to goal. So people writing him off is absolute madness for me. And I mentioned on a pod previously, it's almost as if how Edin Dzeko was for City throughout them years. He was such an important player, and he won them so many points. And Giroud will start games this season. 100% he'll start games, and I don't think we should get too attached to this new front-footed pressing style, because it won't work in every game, and we scraped it against Burnley, very lucky. Against Southampton, Olivier Giroud come on and won us a penalty. We had the Swansea game where teams will figure us out. Middlesbrough, it won't work every week, and if Alexis ain't on it and Walcott ain't on it, we're in a bit of trouble with regards to getting goals. And I just think Giroud I personally, against Middlesbrough at home, I would have probably been looking at starting Olivier Giroud and pushing Alexis back out to the left, and because they're going to sit deep, it's going to be two banks of four, and it ain't always going to work. So I just hope that Arsene don't marry his style, because I think in the past he's been very guilty of that, and I hope that he does utilise what we do have and make changes, and not just. I worry about him when he's making subs in games, because nothing really seems to change. It's just like for like, and it's not a change of system or a change of style. So it'd be nice to see when Giroud is back, and we have got that option to bring him on. I mean, surely he'll be the first man coming on if we need a goal, but it'd be nice to see the way Wenger reacts to it, because in the past he's brought Giroud on, and we cross the ball to 70 minutes for no centre forward, and you bring Giroud on, and we stop crossing the ball, and you think, oh, so let's use him and use him properly, and he's got a hell of a lot to offer us this season. I really do think he's still a very big player for Arsenal.
Asking you the same thing, Clive, but also I guess adding the question with regards to what was says with how Wenger sets out his teams. Do you think it's possible for us to play the way we have been playing, with us at our best, with Alexis up front, and it's very fluid, intricate, all the intricate moving up front we've had, and then the next game we can play Giroud up front, where things are a bit more static, and then go back to it again? I mean, do you think it's as easy as that, or do you think we have to have, the way we've been playing recently is our main way of playing, and Giroud will come on off the bench, you'll play the odd game here and there, or do you think it's actually possible to kind of have these two play styles and be able to flip between them if we need them? Is that kind of asking for too much, do you think?
I think it is possible, and I think it's going to be needed. I think no two games are different. I have a natural bias for you always hear me say it. I like fast Arsenal. I like us to be mobile. I always worry when we're being outrun. That's just my sort of confirmation bias, right? I just don't like that, right? So I like my players to have endless possibilities and be mobile and move around the pitch, and and physically manage their duels really, really well. Now, I think that Giroud naturally brings a certain limit to our game, but also if we use him correctly, and Theo Walcott will not be able to play as well as he has done, for the rest of the season, and there will be times we might want a tearaway winger who's going to cross the ball to him, right, on both sides. And if we're going to do that, then maybe Perez on one side, Oxlade-Chamberlain on the other, and Giroud's going to sit there and he's going to eat those crosses up all day long. And what we have to realise is that, and I said it earlier, coaches are getting better. So we're seeing a new Arsenal, and they're seeing a new Arsenal, and they're coming up with different ways to stop us. Right, so the ability to change styles is going to be critical to our ability to accumulate points. So yes, I have a bias for what I like to see. I think Alexis has kicked off his team massively and has really got us all encouraged. But he won't be able to play like that for 60 games. No way. Right? So we're going to have to rest him. We're going to take him out. And he's going to have days like yesterday when actually, if he was hot, he winters that game. And he wasn't quite hot. His shots were being well saved. The goalkeeper Valdez had a great game. Mm-hmm. And he didn't quite get that first goal. And then we're looking at, what can we do? We want the points. Where's Giroud? We need that player. And Giroud offers something else. So look, we pay for these players. We pay them big wages. We should use them when the time comes, right? So I actually agree with what Wenger's done with Giroud and Ramsey to get them fit for the next phase of games, to get us through. We're going to have these options for PSG, Man United and Spurs, and that's when we need all of the options that we have to make sure that if plan A is not going right, we got plan B and we got plan C, and we can run with these teams. And I think that's going to be very important. So I think the ability to switch styles is going to be key to our accumulation of points and to beat the coaches who are analysing us right now. If we can offer them something different every single week, then they're going to have a problem stopping us.
100%, and I think that's a good way of looking at it. And it's interesting actually because this season, we've scored quite a few goals, but Giroud, who's been one of our top goal scorers in recent years, hasn't been fit, hasn't been playing. Özil's not been getting any assists really. Alexis is now starting to get a lot, so I guess there's kind of more goals, more assists coming from different parts of the team and stuff. And you'd have to hope that when Giroud does come back, he can contribute with goals because, if you've got Alexis scoring regularly, Walcott scoring regularly, Özil scoring all of a sudden, and Giroud as well, suddenly you've got goals from all over the team. And that all comes down to what we've been speaking about with regards to hurting teams in different ways. And, you can spend all your efforts trying to mark Giroud, but if Walcott's then will the defenders be distracted? Will he get more joy and stuff? I guess after everything we've been kind of speaking about with regards to Ramsey, with regards to the midfield and Giroud as well, it's good to have options, right? I mean, do you think, very quickly, guys? I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking that this could be, in terms of depth, about as good as I've ever seen. I mean, I'm obviously a bit of a younger fan. I'm kind of, my Arsenal supporting experience has always been through the Emirates era, really. But I can't remember a squad being this deep. I mean, you can argue over certain positions, first 11s perhaps. But even like the Invincibles, I mean, it wasn't a huge squad, that was it? I mean, we had very few injuries that year, I know, and we kind of got a little bit lucky with that, I guess. But I mean, what do you think of the squad? Just a quick word on the squad. Do you think do we have a right to be excited about the squad, or do you think we're perhaps being a bit premature by kind of speaking of it as if do we have to win the league, for example, for it to be really held as a great squad yet? What do you think?
I think we do need to win the league. I think last season we needed to win the league, and I think this year though we're on another level compared to the way we were looking at things last season, and the fact that we haven't got Firmino playing for us speaks volumes. And the only positions I do worry about, I was quite surprised that we allowed both Campbell and Gnabry to go. I think we're a little bit light on that left side, and especially on the right. If Alexis is being used exclusively as a centre forward, I think I worry a bit there. And also with Jack out, I suppose Ramsey Coquelin has come into his own with regards to being a bit more progressive this season, so that's less of a worry. But you do look across the team, and there really is a hunger that I haven't seen for a long time, a togetherness, a drive between them. I think characters like Mustafi coming in. I like seeing Granit Xhaka take one for the team on the halfway line. Never a red, but I like seeing that. That's something we ain't had in a while. And I just think, when you look man for man, it's nice that we can look and say, look, if Monreal gets injured, Thibaut's coming in. If we're looking at our centre-backs, I mean, we ain't even seen Per this season. Gabriel's coming back. Rob Holding looked fantastic. Well, Danny Welbeck's coming back into the side. We have got fantastic amount of options. But every time I've discussed this with Clive on a pod, we've always said the same thing, that Arsene Wenger has to manage his squad correctly. And that's my only worry. He normally gets married to a system, and he gets married to his favourite players, and he's very, very, I think he's not great at looking after his best players. I don't think he makes subs at the right times and early enough to prevent injuries for people like Alexis and Özil, and and Ramsey and people like that. I think he needs to look after them while he can. And when we're up in games, make the subs right and early and take care of all your best players. Because you look at every other big club out there, and all they do is every time they get in a good lead, that's it. Best players are off, rested. And the good thing about that is we've got the luxury now of being able to have top quality players on the bench. We're not looking at worrying about who we're going to come on. And funnily enough, at the weekend, we're saying it's about the squad. We was missing a hell of a lot of players, but I mean, you looked on the bench and there weren't really goals anywhere, and it was quite frustrating. And someone who would have absolutely loved that game yesterday was Thomas Rosicky. And he's obviously, I'm not saying he should be there now, but he's that kind of player that will come in and just make an impact in 5 or 6 games, and you make that impact a season. But I'm very excited by this squad, and I just really don't want Arsene. That's why I was a bit upset at the weekend. I know it was we got away with it, and it was a one-off and that, but it just seemed like he was seeping back into old ways, and I weren't really enjoying what I was seeing with the 2 deep line centre midfielders and Iwobi retaining no width, and we was a bit disjointed, and they were countering us. And I just hope that Arsene gets it on the money. And when Giroud's back and Ramsey's back and Welbeck's back, we've got massive options, and not just going forward defensively as well. And everyone's playing for their place in the team. And let's hope he is ruthless and he does make changes if they need to be made. And even it down to the keepers. David Ospina has been absolutely phenomenal. Every time he's been called upon, top class. He could go out there and play in probably 15 of the sides in the Premier League, if not more. He really has been superb. So right through the spine of the team and right every position, I think we're covered. But I'll probably go out in January and get maybe one more. But with Welbs coming back, it might be good. But we've got to be excited, and let's just hope that Arsene does continue picking up the wins and avoiding defeats, and we're in there. I just want to be in there. Come Easter, I want to be up the top and in with a shout, and we can kick on from there. Because I think, like Clive said, with people like Giroud and Ramsey, Wenger's doing very well. He's giving them a pre-season. They had a long Euros. There's no need to rush him back. I know Ramsey got injured early on in the season, but there's no need to rush him back now. We've got options. We got through these run of games. We had 10 easy they're not easy, no fixtures easy, but we had 10 winnable games, and we've managed to get through them. And we're now seeing Ramsey and Giroud coming back, hopefully fully fit, with a pre-season schedule under their belt and ready to go. And let's kick on. And like Clive said, the big games are coming up, and we go into the Christmas period. And let's see how Arsene manages the squad, and fingers crossed he gets it right, because we've got a great chance of winning this league this year.
I mean, wouldn't it be great for us to get into November and December and not be, I remember last year when Alexis and Cazorla and Coquelin all got injured in the space of about 2 weeks. And you're looking at the squad thinking, oh God, if we can just get through these next few months until they come back. You don't really feel that, I guess, with this current squad. Xhaka gets suspended for 3 games. Frustrating, but with Coquelin back in the team, isn't that big of a deal, I guess. Little things like that, which I think in recent seasons really hasn't been the case. So I think in terms of the depth, you can't really argue with it. And as you said, Ospina, Gibbs as well. There seems to be a real hunger amongst the players to fight for their spots, and that can only be a good thing. Looking forward slightly then, guys. This week we've got Reading in the League Cup. Now this is of course a trophy that Arsene Wenger's never won. Arsenal last won it 23 years ago. And you look at the draw for this round, and it really couldn't have gone any better for us. I mean, you've got West Ham hosting Chelsea, United playing City, Liverpool playing Tottenham, and really they're the other kind of big names in the draw, and we've got a home tie against the second tier opponent. Clive, I mean, we all want to win every trophy we're in, but the League Cup, for Wenger, which is probably the biggest reason why he hasn't won it, has always been a chance to just play the kids. Last season we went out pretty acrimoniously against Sheffield Wednesday, and kind of we got a lot of injuries in that game, and it was kind of like we've had a few of those results in the League Cup, but with us being at this stage, with us after this round, if we were to get through, the big names will be split, considerably down. Do you think this is something that we should really be taking seriously and devoting kind of our attentions to, or do you still kind of see it as nothing more than a nice distraction, I guess, if we go far?
He's always sort of looked at this as the 4th trophy, right? And I've never had an issue with that. I actually look forward to these games because we're going to probably see, I imagine we're going to see Carl Jenkinson play a game.
Jeff.
We're probably going to see, I read today, we're going to see Maitland-Niles in centre midfield, who I really want to see. and he'll probably play there with El Neni. I think we might see Lucas up front. We might see Giroud start the game. We might see Jeff play. We'll see Gibbs play. We'll see Holding and Gabriel play. We'll see Martinez play. And I love these games because you get to see these players not just play as part with the more the first team players, but you get to see them own games and really lead games and really put themselves when they play under pressure. And I think it's going to be important to have squad depth. And Oxlade-Chamberlain will probably play again. So that team sounds pretty good to me. And I'm some players there are really quite exciting. I said earlier, Lucas really excited me. And all these players now can put pressure on the so-called bigger name players, right? So and Wenger, I agree with what Walter was saying earlier. He's not always managed people well, and if he's made, he makes the odd mistake. But I think he's making less. I don't want to talk down to the man that's managed 1,000 games, but he's making less mistakes, and I think he's making more good decisions. I mean, we all queried the Ospina one, but I think he's been brilliant for us. Monreal had a bit of a dodgy game, and he brought Gibbs in straight away. He made that decision, moving Alexis up front, keeping him there, sparked us off. He's Ozil's adapted his game. Theo's found his game. Iwobi until recently has found his game. We've managed to, manipulate the options in centre midfield. We found a centre half, and Wenger's made a lot of right decisions. We can all find the odd one in hindsight that we don't think he's done right. I could find the odd one, but going forward now, when he's got increasing options, that's going to be the challenge. What's he going to do? Is he going to go back to, what's he going to do really? We're not too sure, but it's good to have the options because we didn't always have them last year.
How do you view the League Cup? Is this a trophy we should really be targeting this season? Of course, it's not. It doesn't rank anywhere as highly as the other trophies you're involved in. But with the way the draw has fallen, would you like to see? We're always going to see some of the younger guys, some more of the squad players come in. But would you like to think that Wenger's really going to go for it this year, or do you think it will just be, well, if we get far, we'll get far. If not, then who cares?
I really want to take it serious. I don't know. 100%, I think you should be going for it. We've got the squad to do it. That's the thing. In previous years, maybe we've looked at it and thought, well, if we lose players here, we can't cope. We've got a massive squad, and we're talking about kids here. We're talking about very, very talented backup players now. We're not talking about. Lucas Perez, he's not a kid. Like last season, we saw Glenn Kamara and think that's not on. They're just being thrown into the lines, and it was never right, and the mix was wrong. And the only thing I worry about with Arsene is I don't think he will. If things ain't going right, and I'm not sure he'll have anyone on the bench, whereas I probably would have a few senior players on the bench just in case, because I don't see the point in throwing away an opportunity like Reading at home. Like you said, with the way the rest of the draw is, there's a very good chance we go away in this competition, and I don't see why people should frown upon it. If you look at the winners in the previous years, they're all top 4 teams, and it's a trophy, and winning trophies breeds winning trophies. You get one FA Cup, we got another FA Cup last year. Losing at home to Watford was criminal, but we really could have gone on and won another FA Cup last year. And I just think the League Cup is something, especially seeing as it ends in February. That ain't going to affect the running. 100% he should go for it, and I really do. And like Clive said, I'm very, very excited to see these players, especially people like Jeff and how he performs in a big boy game against big boy players. It's so different to a reserve level or an under 23 level, whatever they're playing at. And it's nice to see them sort of be out there, but with a certain amount of decorum and a certain amount of seniority around them, they could shine. And I think with players like Ox and Perez and El Nene, and that's good. Even people like Jenkinson, he's got a lot of minutes under his belt, a lot of performances for West Ham now. These are no mugs. And Gabriel at centre back, Rob Holding.
They're all players with players to prove. It's not just kids. It's players that are on the peripheries that think, well, Perez's best game for us came against Forest. And
Cal, I think you said that really well there, because I think in previous years it's been a team of kids with a couple of players who've got something to prove, whereas now it's a team of players with something to prove with a couple of kids in there, and there's a big difference. And I think that the young players will benefit from this, and there is a really good opportunity to give them minutes, and let's hope they do turn up and it could be a party atmosphere and good free-flowing football and exciting young talent because it's there. So fingers crossed we go out there and take it seriously. And it's a great initiative, £10. You get a lot of the kids going, a lot of people who don't normally get to go, and it's a different, very different atmosphere, the League Cup. And hopefully we do turn up and go into the next round. A lot of goals, yeah, and it'd just be nice, mate. It's a nice. I don't think I see it as a distraction because I do think we've got the squads competing for competitions, but he will mix it up a bit, and it's Reading at home. Let's not take anyone lightly, and let's go out and get the job done professionally and see how we get on in the draw.
No, I think that's well put, and it's certainly nice being able to watch these games, and it's kind of fun, I guess, because I don't go into the League Cup games particularly stressed. If we lose, we lose, and it's a shame, but you forget about it by the next Premier League game. But if we win, we get into the later rounds. It's fantastic, and it's always good to see us put a few goals past teams if we can do that as well. And guys like Perez, Jenkinson, Gibbs, Espina, Gabriel. I mean, really is a team full of players that aren't playing in the team but want to get into the first team. And this is the kind of place where you can get the fans to think, oh, maybe we should give him a go. And Wenger, of course, will be. He can be stuck in his ways, I guess. But you'd like to think that if the players would like to think anyway that if they do a good, play well in these games, they'll be work in their favour when it comes to the big games as well. So it should be a good game.
It's a big game for some of these players. Very big game, contract-wise and future-wise. If Carl Jenkinson plays and plays well, that's a very big moment for us because Hector Bellerin, he's not Superman. He can't play every minute of every game. Right, so that's a very important audition he'll have if he plays. Maitland-Niles has been on the periphery for a while. What he does there, it could be very important. Same for Jeff if he gets the time on the left, for example. And I don't think he's that far behind Iwobi myself. He just needs time, another year, and he's going to be there. Right, so it's a very important game. Don't dismiss it. And actually thinking on, if you look at the time of this competition, he actually suits our ambitions far more than the FA Cup. The FA Cup sometimes gets in the way of the Champions League in those crucial league games. And that's when sometimes we mess up. We don't rotate very well. We get injuries. So when it comes to the critical league games in April, we mess up, right? So if anything, this competition it's better timed for the competitions that we really want to go for. And I do think we can go for a league, and it's about time we do something in the Champions League. So let's see how we go. We definitely got the players anyway, but maybe this competition's better time to our new ambitions. That this squad should be thinking about big trophies now, not just FA Cups.
You guys heading along this week, or are you sitting out?
I might be. I'm actually taking some coaching badges. I've got a big all-day session tomorrow. But
don't let the fans hear that, Clive. They'll be calling Clive for manager when things are.
No,
when Wenger.
I'm not doing a pro license. I can't afford it. Right? So yeah.
Hey,
we'll all chip in a pound for Clive. Get him as Arsenal manager.
I tell you, you'd raise more money than you think. Actually, you might think, Clive, if we did that. So good stuff. But what about you? Was you heading along? Or are you sitting this one out?
I'm sitting this one out, mate. I'm working. It's half term, so it's a busy week for us with my job. So I'm in the school working, so I'll be doing long days. But as I say, it'd be nice because a lot of the season ticket holders I go with, and that a lot of them ain't attending, and a lot of fans who don't usually get to go will be able to go along with their children, and they won't.
Well, I'd like to go. That's the kind of game up. The last time I went to the game was in the League Cup a couple of years ago, but
yeah, it's a bit of a party atmosphere, mate. Yeah, and I just think it's nice. They ain't got like some grumpy man like me getting fed up with things, moaning, but they can just all enjoy it, and it's a nice atmosphere. And fingers crossed, there's a few goals, and they all enjoy it because that's a perfect place for the young boys to go and watch a bit of the Arsenal play football. So good on them.
Yeah, right then, guys. Before we go, what do you reckon the score will be on? When is it? Wednesday night, Tuesday night, midweek? I will say. What do you think the score will be? Comfortable win?
Yeah, I think so. But then again, I had Arsenal beating Middlesbrough 4-0. So what do I know? So yeah,
we used up all our goals against Ludogorets, I think, last week.
Just to see us win, and just get the momentum back. Because I've got two eyes on Sunderland, to be honest.
Yeah, that'll be a big game. And I think
we'll be comfortable, mate. I think 4-0. I think we really will just turn up and get that good vibe going again. And Sunderland, I'm heading up there next week, 12:30 in the morning kickoff. No idea why they think that's feasible, but it is 12:30 on a Saturday for Sunderland away. Crazy. So So yeah, like we've all got one eye on Sunderland, but it's not a bad distraction. This, and hopefully we can add to our really impressive record of late and the amount of goals we've been scoring this season, and keep the fun going and keep the free flowing football going, and move on to Sunderland. And it's never easy there, and hopefully we get them points in the bag. And no, obviously not the points midweek, but we'll get through into the draw on the next round.
And then we'll get the points of the weekend. But anyway, chaps, then we'll leave it at that. Thanks to you both coming on. And yeah, no worries. Thanks for coming on. And yeah, so we'll probably have a podcast out midweek. I imagine after the Reading game before Sunderland. So listen out for that. So yeah, cheers, Waz. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Thanks very much for having me, mate.
It's always a pleasure, and to you as well, Clive.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, you guys who have listened to the Gooner Ramble. Check back in the week for the next episode, and thanks for tuning in. See ya.
This podcast is sponsored by www.gambleriskfree.com, teaching you how to make guaranteed profit from bookies. Any free bet you get teaches you how to turn it into real withdrawable cash. They also find free bets for you so you don't have to do any work. Take a look at their website and enter the promo code GoonerRamble when joining. GambleRiskFree.com.